Welcome to the Preserving Family Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to equip you to gain insight, information, and inspiration to help you protect, teach, and guide your family during these turbulent times. Our goal is to provide tools and resources to help you strengthen and preserve your own marriages and families. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Mark and Janie Ogletree.
Well, everyone, we're so glad that you're with us today on Preserving Families. And it's been a while, Janie, since we've had you with us. So thanks for coming back. That's where we lost you there for a while.
It's good to be back. No, it's been a crazy summer and spring for me. So I am glad to be back and getting my life back together and my regular routines and systems. So yeah,
you're kind of getting back in
the saddle.
This hasn't been
from
after
having too much fun and vacationing too much this summer.
Right. We've had a lot of kids with us and grandkids over the summer, and now it's, as we approach the end of August, it's kind of time to get back on track, right, with our routines and everything. Well, we're going to try to tackle a really difficult subject today, but it's been on our mind for a long time. In fact, for quite a while, we've talked about, man, we should do something on this topic. But once again, we know that there's a lot of sensitivity with it, and the topic is this idea of how we've observed in many families, and I see it in my counseling office, I see it in church work. Janie, you see it everywhere. But this idea of kind of this cancel culture within our own families, right? That if someone says something that's offensive or someone hurts someone's feelings, it's not like the old days where you kind of get mad and upset and you kind of hash it out and figure it out. Then in our new era, what you do is you just say, okay, that's it. Don't ever speak to me or talk to me or my family ever again. We're done. And once again, it's very prevalent, right? We're seeing it kind of everywhere.
Yeah, it's super sad. We definitely are seeing it in our culture, right? If anybody disagrees with you for any reason, politics, I think this started back in COVID era. I don't know when it started, but kind of seems like that's when it kind of flared up. And we see it in our culture. We see it online all the time. We see people literally trying to destroy each other's lives and just cancel them. And cancel could mean just, I'm not speaking to you again. But a lot of times it even takes it to a more severe state where I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to ruin your reputation. I'm going to ruin your business. I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to bankrupt you. I mean, that's what, in a lot of instances, that's what culture, I'm going to cancel you means. And it's devastating. I mean, it's so sad and horrific what people do to each other. But yeah, like you said, that now we're seeing it seep into families where if people don't like something the way that you think, or if you say something, or if they get offended, they just cancel you. And we're starting to see that more and more of that popping up in families, and it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
I think that's why we decided we were going to tackle this one, as hard as it's been. It's taken us a while to put together because it's such a horrible
it's so delicate,
thing, and it's
right?
becoming so prevalent.
Yeah, it's becoming prevalent. In fact, I just talked to someone recently, a mother probably in her 60s, who said that my whole life, all I've ever wanted to do was to be a good mom and a good grandmother. That's all I've ever done. That's where we've put all of our focus, is on our family. And now I have children and grandchildren who won't even speak to me. And she's like crushed. I mean, it's devastating. So I've been in the mental health profession for about 35 years now, and I've just never seen anything so catastrophic and devastating. In fact, one of the saddest trends I think I've ever seen, it's probably not divorce, it's probably not addiction, it's probably not even depression or anxiety, but it's just families not just disappearing from each other's lives, but literally canceling people from each other's lives.
Doing it on purpose.
Right. So I love this statement from Hoyt Brewster, a great LDS scholar, who said years ago that one of the most significant signs of the last days, and probably the most dangerous, is the all-out assault that Satan is making on the family. He has an intense hatred of anything associated with the family: marriage, mother, father, children. He'll never be a true father. He'll never have those things. He seeks to destroy them, but I think Satan is flaring up in ways we've never seen before. JD, we've probably used this verse quite a few times in here, but it's 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 to 5, but I'll just look at verse 2 for a minute. The Apostle Paul talking about that in the last days that men will become lovers of their own selves. They'll be covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. Anyway, I just think that these scriptures are reminding us that, in the last days it's going to be tough out there, and there's going to be a lot of selfishness and pride and disobedience and rebellion. And once again, I think you and I have talked about this before, that Satan is working in a way that some of the best families that we know are just being imploded right now.
It's true. Every time we turn around, it feels like somebody's sharing their stories with us or telling us about their family and how just crazy things are going on.
Right.
And Satan and his minions are just working overtime. I think they're so well organized. I think they've had millions of years to perfect their craft, and they are going after the family, because I think if you destroy the family, you destroy people individually, you destroy our society and our culture at large.
Right.
It reminded me of a scripture in 3 Nephi 11:29 that says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you that he that hath the spirit of contention is not of me, but is of the devil, who is the father of contention. And he stirreth up the hearts of men to contend with anger one with another. Behold, this is not my doctrine, to stir up the hearts of men with anger one against another. But this is my doctrine, that such things should be done away with." And I think that's really profound, that we need to remember in families. That's totally Satan. That's not Heavenly Father at all.
That any contention is of the devil, right? And maybe we need to clarify what that really means, but you're not operating under the Spirit when you're operating under contention, right? You now actually have the spirit of Satan, and that's not going to work out well for anyone.
Right.
And we know a lot of stories. We have a lot of stories, but obviously we can't tell them.
Well, we have stories in our own family. I mean, we don't have to go very far, because every family is going to disagree. Every family is going to have arguments. Every family is not going to see eye to eye on things, right? That's just, nobody personally does. There's no two people that are going to see eye to eye on everything. So we have disagreements. We have disputes. We have things that
flare up and cause a little bit of contention.
Right. But it's in how we handle it, right? We don't just cut the people that we love, that are closest to, out of our lives because they tick us off.
Right.
And then that's happening.
And maybe we should say a couple things right now. And I know we're just having a discussion, but we want to make it really clear that we understand that there actually would be justifiable reasons to cut someone out of your life, right? We know that.
And we're going to talk about those later.
Yeah.
And there really are. If it's severe abuse, if there's anything like that that's literally dangerous that's happened.
Yeah.
That's legitimately dangerous.
Even to the point where if there's just someone that you can't reason with and they just refuse to engage, obviously that's going to be a hard situation. But a lot of times this has gone way over the top. And maybe this is a great example of it. I was saying that we have a lot of stories we could probably tell, but we want to protect those that have shared their personal stories with us. But at least this one we could share. It's about a grandmother who was very involved in her adult children's lives. Not only did she help watch the kids every week, but she helped those children pay for their college. She attended everything. She was just super involved as a grandmother in the life of her adult child and her grandchildren. And then guess what? COVID shows up. And you referred to that, Janie, a little while ago. And there were some disagreements politically on how that should be handled. The arguments escalate. And then one day the daughter just sent this text: "Until you can respect my boundaries, we don't want any contact." Blocked, no explanation. And 5 years later, this grandmother has never met her newest grandson. And we wish that we could tell you that this is kind of a rare thing, but it's not, is it?
No, sadly.
We see too much of it.
Sadly.
So some have described our society today as a low frustration tolerant society, or the idea that we become very skilled at ending relationships, but not skilled at repairing them or even starting them in some cases. Maybe our grandparents often tolerated too much, but maybe our generation today tolerates too little. But healthy families need to learn how to deal or how to live somewhere in the middle there of that continuum. And so let's just talk about what the research says for a minute. Number one is that family estrangement is rising. That research from Cornell University estimates that 1 in 4 Americans is estranged from a close family member. That's astonishing. This is millions of families we're talking about that are estranged from family members.
They're affected in some way.
In a significant way. Number 2, if we talk about parent-adult-child estrangement, which I think is a big deal, that's where we see this so much. About 6 to 10% of mothers and 20 to 30% of fathers experience estrangement from at least one adult child. So we're getting into the 1/3 range there with fathers. And of course, those numbers are going to vary study by study. In the area of grandparenting, thousands of grandparents report losing access to grandchildren because of conflict with their own children. And the emotional toll resembles grief after death, except there's no funeral, there's no closure. In other words, when we work with these people in counseling, we actually go through the grief process with them of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I mean, it could, because and some have said death would have been easier to deal with. So I guess, Janie, maybe one of the questions now is, why in the heck is this going on? What's happening today?
I know. And as you're talking about this, it's just heartbreaking when you think of the ramifications, because when you cut a parent out, it doesn't just it's not just affect the two of you. It affects the entire family. So other siblings join sides. This is what we're seeing. You and I, a lot have talked about. With grandparents, you cut grandparents out, you're cutting out a whole generation. You're cutting out cousins. You're cutting out, just dividing and splintering an entire family. So it's not just as easy as I'm going to cut them out of my life. It affects so many people.
Right.
And it's really is devastating. You say, why is this happening? I think one of the main things is selfishness. Honestly, I think it's just this whole era, this whole generation we live in of selfishness, of I want what I want. Everything needs to just be easy. We need all obstacles taken away from us. We just need a calm, peaceful life. So anything that opposes us or goes against what we think or causes anything in our life, we're just going to cut it out and get rid of it. And I really do think that that's where it comes from. And, I want my happiness first. I think with social media, people are now so engaged on their phones that they aren't having good relationships. They spend so much time on these false relationships that I don't think they value real good, healthy relationships.
A good, deep relationship with someone.
They don't even know how to have it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think previous generations, like you said, often tolerated unhealthy relationships way too long and put up with stuff that maybe we don't today. But today we're ready to just cut it off in an instant. And I think, like you said, healthy families require that middle zone where we can set boundaries. We can set healthy boundaries. We can set, get rid of people that are very toxic in our lives. But we also need, for people that are minimal, for siblings, for family members, we need to figure out how to work it out.
Right, and that's what we're missing, is the part of let's work this out and figure a few things out, and we could make some changes, and probably in a gospel tone we could probably do some repenting.
I think the Lord sent us here in families to learn, to grow, to develop, not just to cut the people out of our lives that we don't like or don't agree with.
Right.
That is the whole laboratory here, that we are to learn to get along and to love and to agree to disagree on some cases, but we have to do that. We don't just cut people out.
Right.
And just like I mentioned a second ago about the social media, I see people all the time. If they disagree, they cancel them. You just block them, you mute them, you delete them, you unfollow them. And not just that, but you get other people to then unfollow them. And it's such a sad, horrible situation to just cancel somebody, or just literally they go after people and just ruin their whole lives. It's
once
horrible.
again, we may understand that on a broad level if there's things out there that are toxic, but when we're talking about your own family members, that's a little bit different.
Yeah, so then in family members, people are blocking people are muting people, are deleting them, unfollowing them, and it's just if someone stresses you, remove them, and that's That's not how families work. That's
Right.
not how good friendships or relationships work.
Yeah. Let me talk about another potential area of cause. And once again, this is my own area of therapy for a minute. Because we know that therapy gives a lot of wonderful concepts like boundaries and trauma and self-care and emotional safety. But sometimes setting boundaries could mean to someone, I never want to hear another opinion ever again. And boundaries are actually meant to make relationships better, not eliminate relationships, right? And so I do think that there probably are therapists out there that are giving permission or encouragement to, let's say, adult children to just get rid of your parents, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's so wrong. Or maybe clients are interpreting boundaries as, oh, put that fence up and that means I don't want anything to do with them. Not, oh, here's some safe boundaries that we can navigate our relationship to make it better so that you're happy, I'm happy. That's what boundaries are. It's not literally putting fences or ditches up to get rid of people.
But we also maybe should clarify that sometimes a temporary boundary needs to be put up. You and I have had experiences with that before with other family members. And then, you take it down
and cooler heads prevail.
Right.
Yes.
And you
Take
go
a
back
moment.
and visit with each other and figure it out and everything's okay.
Exactly.
What else? Any other reasons why you think this could be happening?
Honestly, I think politics is a huge one. Again, I think starting with COVID and all of the mess that happened there, I think families are increasingly dividing over politics or cultural issues, religion, vaccines,
Mask wearing? You throw it all in there.
LGBTQ. I mean, you name it, there's going to be disagreements within a family, right? Parenting philosophies, maybe siblings, disagree on how to parent different, and then that comes to head and comes to blows or whatever. But I think a sad reality that Satan is putting in people's heads, that if you believe differently than I do, then you're unsafe and you need to be banned because it almost challenges their belief or something. I don't know. I'm seeing that so much that if you don't believe how I do, you're out of my life, or I hate you, or it's horrible.
Right.
And I think Satan's really using that one a lot.
I do too. I think you're right. In fact, Janie, I've even seen it where now in our Eternal Family class at BYU, we have to talk about when couples are meeting and figuring out for the first time if they're going to really be able to be a match and make it, that now politics is one of the filters, right? That you have to figure out is, do we align politically? Because it has become such a polarizing topic today. So maybe we can mention just for a minute 3 levels of family conflict, because some of these levels are normal. And maybe once again, we should just introduce this idea that conflict is normal and conflict is healthy. We're not trying to say that you shouldn't have any conflict in this life. And I was going to say in my doctoral program, I loved it, that one of the theories we studied was conflict theory. And what conflict theory says is that conflict is actually healthy. You could make a relationship stronger as you navigate your way through conflict. And once again, a lot of conflict is just normal, right? We want to normalize that. But I think in our own family, when you throw in 8 children, and then you throw in 8 spouses, and then you throw in 30 plus grandkids, okay, not everyone's going to see the world the same way in that group of, 40 plus people now, right? We're going to have different ideas about things. And so we'll call level 1 just general differences, right? Just the normal stuff. We're probably not going to agree on everything regarding politics, how we raise our children, how we live our faith, how we practice our religion, different personalities, different lifestyles. But none of those should ever end a family relationship, right? I mean, that's the basic stuff. But then we move into level 2, which we could call kind of this idea of repeated hurt. Now, there's a lot of criticism. There may even be name calling. There's manipulation, broken trust, verbal attacks. And all of these things, to navigate our way through those, to solve those problems, are going to require some honest conversation, some repentance, some boundaries, some healing, some forgiveness.
Some humility,
yeah.
Lots of charity.
Some, Lord, is it I?
Lots of grace, yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Those are hard.
But now we move into the level 3, and this is the one that we want to really make sure that we understand. And this is what we call the danger level, right? This is where there's abuse, there's violence, there could be sexual abuse, there could be a serious addiction with ongoing harm, There could be concern for the safety and well-being of our children, both physically, sexually, any of those type of things. And these sometimes require separation for safety. And so once again, we want to acknowledge that some of these conflicts are very real, and we have to protect our families from certain kinds of people and predators. But unfortunately today, I think what I'm seeing and what we're both seeing is that many people are viewing a level 1 disagreement as though it was a level 3 danger, right?
Yeah. Mark, I like what you said, and I just want to reiterate so that we are very clear that there are examples. If there's real abuse, ongoing abuse, real violence, sexual abuse, repeated manipulation, those are instances where maybe that relationship cannot be saved or salvaged or preserved. I think we really need to make sure and that there may be a reason to disassociate with people. But in the normal day-to-day, everyday challenges, we need to fight for these relationships. We need to, like you said, we all need to be humble. We need to ask, Lord, is it I? We need to be forgiving. We need to be asking for forgiveness. We need to grant it. We need to do whatever we can to preserve these relationships because they're so important.
Yeah.
In here and in eternity.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we just really need to distinguish between, and I love how you said that many relationships are being abandoned that could really have been healed.
Right.
People just, they don't want to deal with it. They don't
just
do the
throwing
hard
it out.
work to do it.
Right. Well, it reminds me of a story of a father and a daughter. The daughter stopped speaking to him, and this dad just could not understand why she would do that. And after a couple of years, she agreed to go to counseling. And the father agreed to be a better listener, right? And so they go into counseling, and he starts to listen, and she's able to share her side of the story. And she later said that I didn't need perfection. I just needed her dad. She said she needed her dad to just acknowledge the hurt that had happened. And their relationship slowly returned, not because either became perfect, but they both became humble. Janie, like you were saying, to kind of get into this idea of, Lord, is it I?
As we shift now, and kind of we've talked about the reasons why this goes on. We've talked about our culture, Satan, everything. Let's talk about maybe how to repair. If any of us have damage in our families or relationships that are distant or non-existent or that need to be improved, I think we're going to talk about that for a minute and how we can improve these. And it's really hard because sometimes somebody's willing, but the other person's not. Yeah. And I think that's the key. And I think we just keep praying, we keep loving, we keep asking. I don't know. Every situation is so different, but we're just going to give some generic principles on maybe things that might help us, the situation that we've either seen or experienced or studied. And the first one is forgiveness. If there's been hard relationships, hard things that have gone down, forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. It doesn't. But it refuses to let resentment become permanent.
Yeah.
And I like that. We have to be willing to forgive each other and to move on. None of us are perfect. We all have bad days. We all say stupid things. We've all done stupid things. We've all, and we have to
I was going to say, everyone's going to say something stupid at some point, right?
Right. And I hope people don't judge me for my worst days or the bad things that I've ever said or done. And we have to be willing to give that forgiveness to each other and be willing to accept it and ask for forgiveness and to give forgiveness.
Yeah.
Another one, if we have issues with parents, there's a commandment that we need to honor our father and mother. I mean, this even applies when our parents are not perfect, and no parents are. I think we need to understand that all parents are imperfect. That doesn't mean that we have to have close contact with them. It doesn't mean that we have to live next door. It doesn't mean that we have to let them come over every moment.
Or bulldoze over us.
Or take over our lives or families. But we should, honor just means respect. We need to treat them with respect, with dignity, be civil, try to, have communication that goes both ways, try to help people understand. And I know sometimes it doesn't, and every situation is different. But parents should also honor their adult children. That goes both ways.
Yeah.
And parents should not try to overtake their adult children's lives and interfere with what they're doing or criticize or comment. It really does go both ways. And that is a really sticky situation. But
it can be, yeah.
Yeah. But again, we need to introduce charity. We all, in our own hearts, need to have charity. Moroni teaches charity, that it beareth all things, it hopeth all things, endureth all things. And healthy families become experts at giving each other grace and forgiveness and charity and honor and respect, all these things that we're just talking about. It has to go both ways. And I know in some families, there are those people that are just contrary, that don't care about getting along or aren't Christ-like and aren't trying to be charitable and kind. And we know these situations are so difficult, but all we can do is control ourselves.
Yeah.
And just pray our hearts out.
Janie, these are great gospel principles, and I think the one that I'll share that I think is obviously maybe the most significant one of all is this idea of forgiveness. I go back to those that I said grandmother, but it's grandparents that have been basically booted out of their own family, and yet this grandmother, just reminding you of the story, said, "My mom treated me horribly my whole life, but I was there till she took her last breath. I took care of her the last years of her life." And I remember asking her how she did that for someone who treated you so horribly. And she said, "I forgave her." I mean, that's what it is, right? That's the doctrine. Studies by Everett Worthington and Robert Enright show that forgiveness is associated with lower levels of anxiety, lower levels of depression, healthier relationships, better physical health, reduced stress. Forgiveness doesn't always restore trust, but it restores peace. And I like that idea. I just think if we can forgive, if nothing else, maybe we'll just sleep a little bit better. How's that?
Yeah.
We'll all take that one,
We all
right?
need peace in our lives.
So when it comes to practical solutions, I love, Janie, what you said, because I'm thinking, number one, practical solution, slow down before you act rashly and just cancel someone out of your life with a text because you're mad at something that happened over dinner. Slow down and don't end a relationship on your worst day. I think you were saying something about that earlier. I would say that could be a number one practical solution.
I love that, because I think we all just impulse now, and we rage and we get mad and we say things that we don't mean, and then we wish we could go back, but we're too prideful to undo things. But I love that. Slow down and don't end something because something happened one time, or one dumb thing was said, or over Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. I love that. Number two, let's ask questions and try to understand. Let's try to communicate before we cut people out of our life. Instead of, "You don't love me," let's try, "Help me understand where you're coming from. Please explain to me why," and talk. Try to talk. Everybody lower the heat level and try to communicate best that we can.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Number three is separate intent from impact. I think this idea of intent versus impact is pretty significant, because impact obviously is super significant, right? That hurt me. That was offensive. I'm not going to talk to you again. But what was the intent? Is that really what they were trying to communicate? Were they really trying to say that? Or we want to, once again, we'll go back to Elder Holland over and over again. But when he talked about that great cardinal rule in family relationships, to where he said to think the best of each other and to assume the good and to doubt the bad.
I think that's huge. I think that's huge in families. I think somebody can be having a really bad day. We call it hangry in our family. Like somebody can just be really having an off day, and we just like, "Oh, they must be hangry today." But for whatever reason, you're having a bad day and you just go off on someone or someone else's child, and it's a bad day. They're not a bad person. They probably are suffering from something that's going on in their life. We need to see the intent. We need to assume the good. If this is happening all the time, okay, that's a different story. But a one-time event where maybe someone's just, again, having their own issues, to me, that's a big deal in families. We don't cut somebody off because of that, a one-time thing.
Right. I think that's great.
Number 4 is leave the door open. And I really like that because, like Mark said, we've had to use that a few times with some extended family members. But if distance is necessary for a while, if you need to put your walls and fences up for just a little while to calm down, to take a breather, to see things in a new light, the door is always open when we're ready, right? And we've had that experience where then you feel like, okay, I got myself together again. I can go back and do this again.
Right.
Or I can go back and now have a conversation with that person or try to mend
A rift of some kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's never, that door is never sealed shut, bolted, cemented shut. Unless,
Right.
again, we go back to those really abusive, dangerous things. But normally, let's never close the door permanently. That's what this life is growing and changing and forgiving and trying to become like the Savior. And as we become like the Savior, maybe we can mend these relationships.
Yeah.
But we never say never.
Right. I love the idea that we'll call number 5 the idea of think in decades. And I think what we mean by that is not in terms of minutes or hours or weeks or months or even years, but think in decades. You think family relationships are 50, 60, 70-year relationships sometimes. And so I love the idea of not making permanent decisions based on something that happened one terrible Christmas, which I think is a funny phrase because we actually have a phrase in our family called the Christmas from hell, because it seems like there are Christmases out there that something crazy goes down and we're like, well, that was the Christmas from hell or whatever. But you don't want to let the Christmas from hell define the rest of your life, right? You want to be able to talk through it, figure it out, and move ahead.
Absolutely.
And I think our Christmas from hell that I'm really referring to was probably dealt more with sickness than contention, but I think everyone threw up that Christmas for sure.
Which caused a little contention, so it's okay.
Right.
Number 6 is that we need to remember that grandchildren need extended family, and grandparents need grandchildren, and we all need each other. Research consistently finds that healthy relationships with grandparents provide children with emotional support, resilience, identity, and a stronger sense of belonging. And of course, this assumes that relationship is healthy and safe. I mean, obviously, if the grandparents, are sexual predators, okay, that eliminates that. But let's try to mend those bridges and have the relationship because it's so important in the life of our children and our grandchildren. And I love how, Mark, you always ask, will this disagreement matter in 20 years from now? Like, is it so dumb that, like, sometimes we have a disagreement or an issue and it just balloons and explodes, and then everybody piles on with things that happened 5 years ago and 10 years, and it just gets so out of control that let's stop. Nope, stop. This little rift today isn't going to matter in 20 years. Let's
Well, that may be what I say. But Janie, what you say may even be more important, which often is these are eternal family relationships. These relationships carry into eternity. So let's invest in them now, right? And make them strong and do whatever it takes to mend these relationships.
And as we think about healing our families and the disagreements or ill will that's gone in our families, here's some reflective questions that I know have really helped me as I've thought about this. These are some really good self-examination questions because in the end, all we can do is control ourselves. So one is, have I confused disagreement with disrespect? Have I mistaken imperfection for toxicity? Have I expected my parents to apologize for being human?
Yeah.
Have I expected my children to forgive me without my apologizing and being humble? What part of this relationship belongs to me? Or what part of this maybe disagreement lies on my shoulder? If my grandchildren hear only one side of the story, what legacy am I leaving?
Yeah, those are good questions.
Yeah, kind of thought-provoking questions.
I like it. So, we talk about emotional resilience a lot, but what about relational resilience or relationship resilience? Because healthy families aren't the ones who never hurt each other, but they do know how to recover. And every family is going to have some injuries, so to speak. But healthy families also accumulate repairs. I like that idea. It's a profound principle that healthy families can repair each other. And that reminds me of a story of two brothers that we heard not long ago who hadn't spoken to each other in 18 years. They don't even remember how the argument began, but a stalemate for 18 years. And then their mother dies and they attend the funeral. And it was during the funeral that they reconnect, they embrace, they cry. And one of their brothers says to the other, we lost 18 years that we'll never get back. And I love the idea that families are one call away from healing. So when it comes to LDS, let's do something. Maybe we could frame it this way today, that we're inviting everyone who's listening out there that feels that, okay, this is striking a chord. There's something I probably need to do. If there's someone that you've quietly canceled, maybe don't call today, but maybe you could pray or think about it today, or even ask yourself, have I confused discomfort with danger? Or have I confused disagreement with disrespect? Or is reconciliation even possible? Families are definitely worth fighting for, not because they're perfect, but because we are family.
And in closing, this is not easy. There's nothing easy about this. This is so hard, so difficult. It's painful. It's agonizing. It breaks our heart. But like Mark said, it is worth fighting for. And I know sometimes we always say someone has to fall on the sword, maybe sometimes if you have somebody who's just unrepentant or isn't ready to forgive. This is hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's just with the Savior, with lots of prayer, lots of fasting. I think that's how we've gotten through it. It's heartbreaking. It's lots of tears. Therapy if you need it.
But just remember, Satan drives it, right? I mean, contention is of him.
Absolutely.
And we want to cast him out of our lives. I love what we learn in the New Testament in Ephesians chapter 4, that we don't say words that offend, but words that edify and words that heal. And we try to speak, as it says in Nephi, in first or second Nephi, with the tongue of angels, right? And those kind words are words that can heal. It's really easy to ask someone for forgiveness. Maybe harder to get it sometimes.
But our hearts go out to anyone who's going through this right now. We've been there. We know. We understand. And it is rough. And our prayers are with you. And hopefully something we said today has blessed your life.
Yeah. Everyone have a great week. And we look forward to being with you again